You're listening to The Phillip Jordan Show.
What's up, everybody? It is Real to the Podcast. It's a preview Friday, but we're also going on video on Thursday night. It is the last one we'll be doing this. It's the championship weekend preview and predictions episode. And as always, when I do these predictions and previews, I am joined by Matt Lowe of Field Level Media. And Matt, I can't believe it. We are at championship weekend. The season has flown by, but a lot of things are at stake this weekend.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that committee is going to have to make some tough decisions by the way things are going to shake out this weekend, and we'll see what happens, man. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, at least there's a lot on the line for several teams.
Yeah, I think pretty much all the the Power Five conference championship games has playoff implications. I mean, you look at on Friday night, we'll get into these games later. We're going to do Group of Five first, everybody, when we get to picking the games. But I mean, you look at the Pac-12, that's pretty much a play-in game. Oregon and Washington. You've got the ACC championship game. Florida State's trying to get in there. Of course, feels like some people may not want them in there. The SEC championship game is big time play-in. Maybe two of those could get in. The Big Ten, okay, Michigan. That was a little bit kind of more less than that. Michigan we'll get to that a little bit. And then the Big 12 with Texas. So all meaningful games. We usually don't get that on championship weekend, but we've got that where all these games are meaningful. Hey, even some of the Group of Five ones are big because teams trying to get a New Year's Day bowl game.
Yeah, man. And I'll tell you what, this year, we're going to the 12-team playoff next year, but this year would be a fantastic year for the 12-team playoff.
Yes, it would.
I mean, so that's kind of intriguing. But yeah, man, a lot on the line for a lot of teams, and I guarantee you somebody's going to beat somebody that probably is not supposed to get beat.
So before we jump into that, so now I've talked about this all week with just off-air conversation, writing, podcast, everything. So I would ask you this: you talked about teams get beat by teams that should be beat by. We should have seen that last Saturday, and I have not heard your opinions. Just your thoughts last week's Iron Bowl.
Well, it was an incredible game. I mean, it really was back and forth. It was heavyweight boxing match. Both teams screwed up a little bit. To be honest with you, Phillip, I don't know if I've ever seen a game end like that. I've seen a game end on a Hail Mary or whatnot, but to only rush two players and give a quarterback that much time to throw and have a spy just moving back and forth in front of the center and not even having one of your best defensive tackles out there, Marcus Harris, out there rushing the passer. Man, I don't know. I thought they played that a little too conservative, and two, man, I mean, you would think you'd have a defensive back, breaking it down in quadrants, one on the back of the left corner of the end zone, front corner, and then you had a one DB in the middle, one DB in the back, then one DB on the right corner, one DB in the front. So you'd have the areas covered. But hey, man, I'll say this: Jalen Milroe is a stud. That he's a physical specimen. It was a hard hitting game, man. I don't know. It's one for the ages, and got to tip your hat to Alabama. They made plays when it counted.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of attention was paid to what Auburn didn't do in that sequence, but you also got to say this. You mentioned Jalen Milroe. That was a great throw to hit that guy, hit Bond in the corner end zone like he did. And did you see too? Obviously, I'm sure you did that. Hugh Freeze did not know that was Coy Moore. Back there.
That blew my mind, and what the significance of that. Hey, and Phillip, you didn't even need a punt returner. Just let the ball bounce, man. And if it rolls which way, because when you have somebody back there, there's a chance they can drop it, and that's just it's the law of averages. And that blew my mind. And I tell you what's the kind of significant. I don't know what the word for it. What shows the meaning of that rivalry was Jalen Milroe running, breaking free, and Nehemiah Pritchett coming up and hitting him right there. That's what that rivalry is all about, And I think Pritchett got hurt, but hey, Milroe's a big boy, man, and he runs hard. But that hit right there, it shows the physicality of what that rivalry is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was not going to allow him to get the first down there. So it's one of them woulda, coulda, shouldas for Auburn, obviously. But I also look at it this: the Auburn ends 6-6. Look, we know what happened against New Mexico State. We're about to talk about the team in a second, but doing what they did here, I say this is the worst team Hugh Freeze will have at Auburn. I fully believe that. He's going to make. I mean, look, the transfer portal is wide open on quarterbacks. We've already heard rumors of guys Auburn's going to try to go after. But yeah, so I think also it's tough if you're an Auburn fan, but I think after a while looking back, they said, okay, Auburn just had their worst team they're going to have under Hugh Freeze. This is going to be interesting rivalry with these two teams, and Auburn's going to be okay in the future.
Sure, and I thought the offensive game plan was fantastic. I mean, it really was, and I mean they had Alabama off balance the whole game, and I didn't understand. They're late in the game. They drove down running the football and they throw it a couple of times inside the 5. I didn't, you've been running the ball well the whole game. But yeah, man, I mean, and you look what Hugh Freeze did with Liberty. I mean, they're 12-0, so I mean, he left that program in pretty good shape. But I totally agree with you. And that showed to me in that game that guy can coach.
Mm-hmm. And it showed the week before they just didn't come up. They just didn't show up against New Mexico State.
Oh, yeah.
That was just, But speaking of New Mexico State, speaking of Liberty too, both of these teams, we're going to jump into it for everybody. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the Group of 5 championship games first. We'll play a little 1-minute spot, a little break, and then we'll get the Power 5, and then we'll do the SEC championship game last. But Group of 5, we start on Friday. I like this. We've got 2 championship games on Friday night and some high school football to pay attention to for people in the wire as well. Don't forget about Elba and Eufaula in the semifinals. But anyways, the Conference USA championship game, 10-3 New Mexico State will be playing at number 24 Liberty, who's 12-0, as you mentioned. Jamie Chadwell taking over for Hugh Freeze, continuing the success of that program. Liberty is an 11-point favorite. The over-under is 56.5. I just worry a lot of people won't see this game, Matt, because it is 6 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. But what are your thoughts? Interesting match between these two teams. They played earlier in the year, I believe.
Yes, they did.
I had it wrote down somewhere, but here it is. Liberty won 33-17, but that was in week 2. So should be a good matchup between these two.
Yeah, 2 quarterbacks that are really good dual threat quarterbacks, and Diego Pavetta and Caden Salter, and both of them have over 800 yards rushing. So, man, but Liberty's really been scoring points. This game's in their home stadium. I think rain could come into play in a lot of games this weekend on the East Coast. So, the Troy game, this game. So, but man, I'm gonna go with Liberty at home, but I think this is gonna be a heck of a ball game. I say something like 30-27, maybe something like that. Liberty.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to go with Liberty on this one too. But I tell you what, when they played in week 2, you look at that score 33-17. That's a 16-point win there for Liberty. 3 turnovers for New Mexico State. They got to stay away from that. Number 1 rushing team in the country is Liberty. Brought that Coastal Carolina offense over to Liberty. But yeah, I like Liberty too in this one. Early on Saturday, the MAC championship. This is the only Group of 5 championship game, I believe, that's at a neutral site. This is always at Ford Field. A lot of times I've watched it, Matt. There don't seem like a lot of people are there, but still, the MACtion is going into Detroit at Ford Field. Miami of Ohio, 10-2, will be playing Toledo, who's 11-1. 11 a.m. ESPN. Toledo is 8-point favorite. The over/under is 44.5. These two teams played back on October 21st, with Toledo winning 21-17. I just look at this one. I just have doubts that Miami, Ohio is going to be able to hang in this one. Toledo's been a good team all year. They lost like the first game of the year against Illinois, 28-30. They've won 11 straight games. They've got probably the best player in the conference and their quarterback, DeQuan Finn. And I look at on Miami, Ohio side, they were out their quarterback, Brent Gabbert. He got injured a few weeks ago. The offense, the quarterback they got now, Avion Smith, just 80 passes, about 53%, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I just think Toledo's probably just going to be too much for them with them having a backup quarterback.
I agree. And Toledo's running back, Penny Boone, he's a stud. I mean,
Mhm.
he's a big boy. He's a hard runner. Really, really good player. Probably going to be a pro player. So, yeah, I agree with you. I like Toledo. I've tried to pick MAC games, and it's just so difficult. But I'll go with Toledo here, probably about 10 points.
Yeah, I think for Miami Ohio, their defense is going to play above their heads in this one. They do have a player, Caden Woolard. He has 9.5 sacks and 11 tackles for losses. I think he's tied for first in the MAC. They will need a huge MVP level performance from him, I think, to keep this game close.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, the Mountain West. This was played. I guess, does UNLV play their game? Okay, I'm about to show my ignorance a little bit. Don't really watch a lot of Mountain West games. I'll be honest with you. This is in Las Vegas. Doesn't UNLV play at the Raider Stadium though?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, it's a home game regardless for them.
Yeah.
7-5 Boise State at UNLV at 9-3. Boise State's a 2.5-point favorite in this one. I was kind of shocked to see that. The over-under is 58.5, 2 o'clock on Fox. And, you look at this one too, Barry Odom. He has done a great job. I mean, he's always been a really good coach. I always feel like he got the short end of the stick there at Missouri. I think he should have been given more time to build where he wanted things to go at Missouri. But Eli Drinkwitz has done a good job. And Boise State, I just kind of wonder. I know their coach is gone. I wonder if Brian Harson's going to reemerge at Boise. But anyways, how do you see this one?
Man, I think points are going to be scored. These two teams have been scoring points, but I'm going to roll with UNLV inside Nevada there. So I'm going to go with the Rebels.
Yeah, I'm
going to scoring game, like something like 35, 32, something like that.
Yeah, well, this is the conference that's probably going to be the future home of Washington State and Oregon State. So, yeah, they seem like they do score a lot of points there. I feel like in these group of 5, we're going to probably have the same selections. Yeah, I'm going with UNLV in this one. And just again, Barry Odom, what he has done, I believe last year originally Bobby Petrino was going to be his offensive coordinator. And then he goes to A&M. I guess I didn't even mean to bring it up for that reason, but man, how about him ended up back in Arkansas? I mean, how weird is that?
Yeah, really weird, man. The way he left, and I can't stand the guy personally, but I mean, because what he did with the Falcons, leaving them in the middle of the night, just not even telling anybody, I don't know, but man, I don't know. That was an odd hire from out of all the guys to pick from. I mean, you pick him. I mean, what makes that guy so special? I don't get it. I mean,
he's a good.
Did A&M's offense do great this year?
No, I did. I think I was reading. I watched or saw a transcript of an interview he's done this week. He said when he became the offensive coordinator at A&M, that Jimbo made him kind of use his. So it was Bobby Petrino's playbook, but he had to use Jimbo Fisher's terminology.
That makes no sense.
So it was like a complete learning curve for him. He said it was a lot of studying and learning and just kind of teach it that way was made it hard. I think they were better offensively. I kind of wonder, is Bob Petrino one of these guys like, he was a really great offensive mind at one time.
Yeah.
But does his offense still work today? I mean, of course, he had good quarterbacks there at Arkansas when he was the head coach. Ryan Mallett was one of them, Tyler Wilson. And then, of course, he coached Lamar Jackson. But and now KJ Jefferson, it seems to be conflicting things going on there. He looks like he maybe be hitting a portal. So I don't even know what Arkansas's quarterback situation is going to be. But yeah, and the thing about, hey, let's just say this. Anybody listen, we know in this state, Tommy Tuberville learned you can't trust Bobby Petrino. He will stab another coach in the back. I'm just saying Sam Pittman's probably coaching for his job next season. So you got to wonder, is Bob Petrino going to be like, hey, I can come here, Sam Pittman, we have it kind of – if the offense is good, but we're still losing games, maybe I can take over as head coach.
Yeah, and KJ Jefferson, I think he did hit the portal, didn't he? I mean, of course, he's coming off the knee injury, but I mean, I don't know, man. That was just an odd hire for me, and heck, I could coach. Me and you could coach Lamar Jackson. I mean, let's face it,
Yeah.
bro. I mean, that guy's a wrecking crew. So, but yeah, man, I don't know, puzzling hire to me. We'll see how it plays out. But that and with Jimbo Fisher choosing to do that with his offensive coordinator, no wonder he got fired. I mean, you gonna hire a guy and tell him to do what you do? I mean, that makes no sense.
Yeah, so that was interesting when I saw that. And I may not have that word for word, but it's something I came across on Twitter. So, and last little off topic. I know we kind of run on a little tangent here. I am forgetting who is still eligible to play college football next year because I keep seeing these quarterbacks saying they're going to the portal. I'm like, shouldn't you be out of eligibility? But I guess with the COVID year is really throwing you off because everybody got that extra year. So you're like, I thought KJ Jefferson was graduating. The way they talked during the Arkansas Missouri game, and I saw the people say, I thought, okay, he's going off to whatever he's going to do next, whether it be NFL or whatever. But yeah, man, I'm losing track of these players and are they still eligible to
Yeah,
play
I
and
agree
all
with you.
that.
It's hard to keep up with, but I tell you, there's one guy that's entered the portal, and his name's Riley Leonard. And well, it'll be interesting to see who goes after him.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he played high school in state Alabama, right?
He sure did.
So I'm just saying.
And he's a dual threat. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so let's go back in these games. We kind of went off topic there a little bit. The American Athletic Conference Championship, which I know they don't like to be called Group of Five, but you're not Power Five, so that's where you're at. SMU's 10-2, 8-0 in conference. They have won 8 games in a row overall. They'll be playing number 22 Tulane. This will be at Tulane's home stadium. They're 11-1, also 8-0 in conference. But this is kind of another deal with the quarterback injury. SMU quarterback Preston Stone, he had a fibula fracture against Navy in their season finale. Terrific quarterback there. So redshirt freshman Kevin Jennings will start. Of course, we know Tulane. This is their second year in a row going for the championship here in the American. They won it last year, beat UCF. I just feel like with the quarterback deal, it's kind of another deal like the last game we picked, or the not the last one, the one before that. Quarterback. Start the quarterbacks out. Just you just kind of feel like are they going to struggle to create any offense for SMU?
Yeah, I mean, and Rhett Lashley, what a job he's done at SMU. He's done a great job, and Willie Fritz has done a great job too. I'm surprised he's not getting any consideration for a head job, but Michael Pratt here, really good quarterback for Tulane. I think he's got pro potential. Their offensive defensive lines are really good. I like Tulane here, probably by about 10 points.
All right. I do too. Tulane. That was kind of simple. The last of the Group of 5 ones we're going to talk about. One is going to be right up the road from where I'm at, but I will not be going to it because you mentioned weather earlier. Down here around Dothan, it is like 80 and 90% chance of rain both Friday and Saturday. So this could be a wet one up in Troy. But Appalachian State 8-4, 6-2 in conference, be playing at Troy, at the Vet, 10-2, 7-1. 3 o'clock ESPN. Troy is a 5.5 point favorite here, and the over under is 52.5 points. Man, I'm gonna let you lead this one here because I think everybody pretty much knows where I'm going to go on this one. I guess I'll word it this way: can App State upset Troy in this one?
I think they can. Sure, they've been hot, man. Lately, they've been scoring points, and there's been a couple of games here recently. I thought Troy should have handled the opponent and kind of stumbled a little bit, but I don't know. The rain's going to be a huge factor, and that benefits a good defense and a running game, and we know Troy has that. I'll give Troy the edge. I think some points are going to be scored in this game, but if it's coming to flood, I don't know about that. So I'd monitor that, but I'm leaning Troy by a field goal here.
It seems like in a lot of Troy's games too, they're a second half team. Like maybe in the first half, they'll let a team kind of hang around. I feel like they did that with Southern Miss last week. Southern Miss hung in there for the first half. Gore had a big touchdown run in that one. I said, okay, is Troy either not focusing on this game? Are they sleepwalking? It was 11 o'clock kickoff. But in the second half, the defense takes over. Gunnar Watson has another big performance. And you're right. If it's raining, it's storming, it's a wet game, that defense of Troy's should take over. And then you just have to, lean on Kamani Vidal. One of the best, not just one of the best running backs in Sun Belt, one of the best running backs in the country.
Yeah, he is. He's a stud, man. And so, that's the thing about games in the rain. You just don't know what's going to happen because fumbles or turnovers, and that's the team that limits the turnovers in that kind of a game is going to win the game probably.
Yeah, you just got to think John Summerall is going to start getting some calls or some notice for some of these jobs that are coming open. I know a lot of people around here are glad that Stoops is staying at Kentucky because there was talk that he may was going to go to A&M for about 2 or 3 hours on Saturday night. And everybody just was saying, okay, they're going if Kentucky has a vacancy, they're going to call John Summerall. But he wins another Sun Belt title, wins it a bowl game, goes 2 years in a row, 12-2. Man, he's going to start getting calls, if not this year, particularly next year.
Yeah, and I will say this: Chip Lindsey left that program in pretty good shape as far as talent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of those guys that have been there for a while. They were there when he was there.
I think Gunnar Watson was the quarterback when Larry Blakeney was still the head coach.
Probably. He's one of those. Seems like he's been there 10 years.
Yeah, I know. And he probably gets a little flack about that. I wonder if anybody in the locker room says, "Hey, what's up, old man?" or something like that.
Hey, man, those veteran quarterbacks they're good to have around because they've played a lot of ball.
Yeah, and the thing is with him this year, this was the first year where he didn't look over his shoulder at quarterback. I mean, every year they were seeing like he was the starter, but there was another guy there. They were going back and forth. And he had a tremendous year this year, throwing for 3,147 yards, 26 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He got sacked 21 times, but they got better as the year goes on. And they got weapons. And they got weapons. He had a big performance last year in this game against Coastal Carolina. So if the weather's good, he could have another big one too. So good. It's been a really great year for Gunnar Watson in his final year at Troy.
Oh, yeah.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a 1-minute break, tell you about some stuff going on over here at Digio Strategies and Wiregrass Daily News. When we return, we will look at the Power 5 championship games right here on the Phillip Jordan Show on Wiregrass Daily News Sports.
96.9 The Legend is your connection to classic country legends. But Digio Strategies has other options too. News Talk 103.9 is your source for America's top news and entertainment shows like Rick and Bubba in the morning, Glenn Beck from 9 till 11 a.m., and Clay Travis and Buck Sexton middays from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. Sean Hannity, Lars Larson, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and others fill your day with the latest news and views from America's top conservative voices. America at Night and Coast to Coast AM keep you company and connected throughout the night. Plus, Fox News, the Alabama Radio Network, and Wiregrass Daily News keep you informed with national, international, state, and local news. And with more musical choices like All the Hits, 106.7 KMX, Today's Country, 95.5 WTVY, and Music 107.7. Digio Strategies gives you more choices and more variety. Listen on air, online, and on our apps. 96.9 The Legend is just the beginning.
Everybody, welcome back into the Phillip Jordan Show right here on Wiregrass Daily News Sports. And now we're going to jump into the Power 5. And we jump back to Friday. I don't know. I guess we could debate, is this or the SEC Championship the best of the matchups, just pure two great teams playing. But the Pac-12 Championship game, number 5, Oregon, 11-1, playing number 3, Washington, who's 12-0. Of course, these two teams played earlier in the year. Great game. I know we talked about it afterwards, Matt. Bad decision making from Dan Lanning in that game. Oregon was probably the better team, and they should have won. Just some bad decisions there by Dan Lanning. 7 o'clock on ABC on Friday night. Oregon, surprisingly, this shocked me, a 10-point favorite. I mean, you were talking off air. We figure maybe 3 points for one of these teams, but 10, that seems like a lot. The over-under is 65.5. I feel like that's a lot. I don't feel like that many points is going to be scored between these two teams. But do you think, can Dan Lanning redeem himself in this game?
Man, I'm excited for this game. This is the game I'm looking forward to. Both teams are similarly built. They both play pretty good defense, which nobody really talks about. An interesting stat that I know, Bo Nix only has 159 yards rushing. I mean, and like you would just think, so he's lived in the pocket. I mean, and their quick passing game is impressive, man. And it's been interesting to see Bo, progress as a player from, now until when he was a freshman at Auburn. I mean, he's night and day a different player, but a lot of weapons on both teams. Troy Franklin and Tez Johnson for Oregon wideouts, outstanding. Of course, Washington has outstanding wideouts. I'm with you on this line, though. It's almost disrespectful. I think. I mean, like, dude, we're undefeated. We're 12-0, and you're saying you're going. and it's on a neutral field. I mean, or it's not in Alton Stadium, you know.
Mhm.
So I think this is going to be a heck of a ball game. I'm going to lean Oregon, but I wouldn't be surprised if Washington comes out pretty ticked off and puts on a good show.
Yeah,
But I'm going to lean Oregon probably by 3 to 7 points.
yeah, I'm in that same mindset you are, but I also look at Washington. They got to be looking like, okay, we beat this team earlier. We're 12-0. But I wondered, and I saw too, like a couple of weeks ago, when everybody was just, assuming this was going to be the matchup in this game. They were already saying Oregon would have been the favorite. I wonder too if it's the last couple of weeks though with Washington really hurt them, because you have a 24-21 win over Washington State. They struggled at times against Oregon State, which Oregon State's a good team this year, 22-20.
That was
Utah,
in the rain too.
Yes, it was. And then there's the Utah game, 35-28. And they got in a shootout with USC, which, I mean, they're like LSU in the SEC. That's just going to happen with them. Then you turn around and look at Oregon. They blew out Oregon State 31-7. They beat Arizona State 49-13, beat USC 36-27. I mean, they've been more dominant in their last games recently. So I've got to think that's got to be a reason for that line moved the way it did.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, but like some of the teams that Oregon beat here late are just really not that good. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm really excited for this game, though. I mean, because I'm a fan of Bo Nix. He's a great guy. I mean, and he's a great player. But I don't know, man. This is going to be a heck of a ball game.
Yeah, it is. It is. And look, Heisman Trophy. I mean, I know that's not the most important thing going into this, but that's something people are going to talk about. These two quarterbacks are the two of the three biggest candidates, and obviously Jaden Daniels, LSU, he's not playing this week, so he can't really do anything to stake his claim on the trophy. If Penix or Bo Nix just has an out-of-world game, you got to think for them that puts him over top with the Heisman too.
Yeah, because Bo Nix has been stacking touchdowns like crazy the last couple of weeks. So, and like I said, man, I mean, watching that team the way I have, I mean, Bo will hit a guy out in the flat a lot. I mean, and they get bust up for 20 or 30 yards. I mean, the way he's operating in the pocket, making quick decisions and swaying defenses to go one way and he'll go back another, the way a good quarterback does. He's just playing at a really high level right now.
Yeah, he is. So we'll see how that one goes. We both got Oregon. We picked the same teams on all of them. We got to see these last couple. We might have mixed it up a little bit. The Big 12 championship game, which we played in Arlington, Texas. This is on Saturday at 11 o'clock on ABC. Number 18, Oklahoma State, who's 9-3 this year. They will be playing number 7, Texas, who's 11-1, trying to get into the college football playoff, state their claim for that. Texas, they are a 15.5-point favorite in this one. The over-under is 54.5. So I think with this one, Oklahoma State is like, which Oklahoma State is going to show up? I mean, they had to beat BYU in overtime last week. I mean, look, some of the teams they've beaten recently. I talked about Oregon and Washington, what they done recently. I mean, Oklahoma State's kind of struggled with some not so good teams. Like I said, last week, 2 overtimes against BYU. The week before that, a 43-30 win against Houston. You think they would beat them worse than they did? They lost 45-3 to Central Florida. They barely beat Oklahoma, which is a solid team, but there's been some struggles in there. But at the same time, I don't feel like Texas has been blowing people away until last week against Texas Tech when they win 57-7. So it's kind of one of these deals. How these teams going to show up? I'm going to pick Texas. I just think Texas is just the better team. They know what is at stake here. And look, what's going to be even funnier, seeing Brett Yarmark, the commissioner of the Big 12, have to hand Texas that Big 12 championship trophy as they're out the door headed to the SEC.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And but man, look, Oklahoma State has given up 129 points the last 3 games. And I don't know about you, but watching Texas last weekend, that was a dominating performance.
Mm-hmm.
And their defense has really, really picked it up lately. They create turnovers. Their defensive line, I think, is the best defensive line in the country. And Jaden Blue, their sophomore running back, man, that guy is Jaden Blue. He is fast, man, because Brooks got hurt, their number 1 guy. So he's kind of stepped up and bust off some big runs for him. The receiving core is fantastic. I think this game's going to get ugly just because what's at stake for Texas, and I can't get out of my head Oklahoma State getting beat by 45-3 to Central Florida on the road. I mean, that's just wow, that's just a beatdown. So I think this is going to get ugly, man. I think Texas could hang 50 on easy.
Yeah, I think the only thing 11 o'clock games can get weird sometimes, but yeah, I agree with you, Texas. I want to ask a question. Now, I don't want you to give me your pick on the SEC championship game. I'm going to ask you this question. It's just a what if scenario. It's kind of a fun question, not really a serious question. So let's just say Alabama upsets Georgia. Texas wins this game. Does Texas also claim the SEC championship?
Claim the SEC championship?
Yeah, they beat Alabama. If Alabama pulls off the upset against Georgia, Texas can pound.
Yeah, I mean, technically, yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's if that happens, man. I mean, I do not see how you could leave the SEC champion out of the playoff.
Yeah.
But then again, there's that argument. Hey, man, they got beat by Texas at home, so that's just going to be a tough call for somebody.
I'll say this. The SEC, I don't think they'll do it. I really don't, because they probably look at the Big 12 as beneath them and everything. But Texas wins this, regardless, Georgia, Alabama, who wins. They ought to proclaim, hey, we're the conference that's got 2 conference champions playing. Because I have to look at the schedule, but I kind of hope Texas plays whoever wins against Alabama and Georgia next year. I just think that'd be kind of a cool thing. But anyway, just having fun there. But we both got Texas, so we'll see how the Longhorns do. Big Ten, I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time on this one. The Big Ten championship game, number 2 Michigan, 12-0, coming off another win over Ohio State, playing number 16 Iowa, who won 13-10 over Nebraska, in a game that set offensive football back 50 years. But they're 10-2. This game we play in Indianapolis, 7 o'clock on Fox. Michigan is a 22-point favorite. Now, Matt, without looking, have you seen the over-under for this?
I think it's 35.
35.5 points. So you know what that's telling us, right?
Yeah.
They don't think Iowa scored.
Yeah. I mean, their offense, man, it's bad. I mean, I think they average 18 points a game. Their running back, LaShawn Williams, he's a good player. I mean, Sebastian Castro, their defensive back, he's a really good player on their defense. I don't know, man. Something's telling me Iowa's going to hang around in this game, though. I don't know what it is. That's a big line, dude, for a team that plays really good defense, and they just I don't know what it is about Iowa. I mean, and the heck, they're 10-2. I mean, but they got destroyed. I think Penn State destroyed them. So a big loss, though, for Michigan was their unanimous All-American, Zach Zinter, their right guard. That was a bad injury watching that in that Ohio State game. He's a fan. He's a Pro Bowl type of player. I think he'll be eventually. So I think Michigan will get the win, but I don't know about covering 22 points. I could see it being 28-7, something like that.
Yeah, so basically they're telling us if Michigan is favored by 22 points, the score would be what? 23, 25, I don't know. 33 to whatever, I don't know, but they just don't see. I saw the over under for each half for Iowa in this game. It is 0.5 point.
Well, but then, hey, man, look, Alabama was favored by 13 points last weekend too. I mean, hey, USC was favored by 40 points over Stanford a while back. I mean, hey, just because the point spread's what it is.
I mean, points was Auburn predicted to beat New Mexico State by.
Well, I mean, and 2 years ago when Harsin was there in Auburn, I think Bama was favored by 21 or 22 points. So, you just never know what can happen in a football game. I mean, you really don't. I mean, yeah, Michigan should destroy them, but once again, that's like, all right, nobody's giving out. I'm a firm believer in football teams. When they're not given a chance to win, they usually play their best.
Yeah, but we'll see. I don't know. I attempted to watch that. You said the Iowa offense. I didn't know they had an offense. That's why.
Nebraska's about the same way. They're like watching paint dry too. I mean,
Let's be honest. The Big Ten championship game was last week.
oh yeah, sure.
I mean, and I'm glad all the conferences are going to go away from divisions, because there were times in the SEC where Alabama, LSU were the best two teams, and you remember at one time, decade before that, it felt like most years Florida and Georgia, or maybe Florida and Tennessee, or Georgia, Tennessee, your combination of those three in the East were the best teams, and when they played, that was really the SEC championship game. So I'm glad all these conferences are now going away from divisions. So each year we will just get the best two teams from each conference playing each other.
I agree with that, man, because that's what it should be. It should be the best two teams playing for their championship.
So the ACC championship game in Charlotte, number 14 Louisville, coming off a loss to Kentucky, kind of put some a sting in this one. They're 10-2. They'll be playing number 4 Florida State, 12-0. Got that victory over Florida without Jordan Travis. 7 o'clock ABC. Florida State is a 1.5 favorite in this one. The over/under is 47.5 points. And really, before we predict this game, just last week, Florida State, Florida. What was your takeaway from Tate Rodemaker?
I thought he played pretty well. I mean, it seemed like they let him loose a little bit in the second half. But I will say this: Jared Verse took over that game, and I've watched Louisville's offensive line. I don't see how they're going to be able to block this dude. I mean, Florida State's defense is really, really playing good football right now, and Louisville has given up 30 or more points in back-to-back games now. So I think Florida State, they're going to run through Louisville.
Yeah, you're right. And Louisville made a lot of mistakes. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago when we talked about Louisville a little bit. Maybe it was last week. I almost said Jack Plummer, and there's no relation between the two. It seemed like a lot of times they have to protect him. And their running back there at Louisville, he is not healthy right now. Jahar Jordan, he's a big part of what they do. He has been banged up. And even their receiver, Jamari Thrash, has been banged up too. And they turned the ball over against Kentucky. I mean, they had a decent lead in that game. They had a lead in the second half, and it just turnovers, and Kentucky took over with Ray Davis and Devin Leary on the offense. And you look at what Florida State – look, Tate Rodemaker, he's not an experienced quarterback. We know this. And this is a big moment for him. And I just don't want Florida State getting punished because Jordan Travis is not there. But he's got receivers. Johnny Wilson, I was watching the Florida State game. It did look like Johnny Wilson has some drops in there. And he has issues with that. And then Keon Coleman and then Trey Benson at running. That's the key. Get Trey Benson going at running game. And then you get that play action passing going with those studs at receiver. Florida State's hard to stop. I mean, they win this, they deserve to be in a playoff. I know there's some people saying even if they're undefeated without Jordan Travis, they don't deserve it. No, they go undefeated. They should be in the playoff.
I totally agree. I mean, it goes back to that game one where they beat LSU, who we all know is a good team, and they beat their tail up in the second half. So, I mean, I don't think they should be penalized for their quarterback getting hurt. They're undefeated. They're a champion of their league. I mean, it is what it is.
And let's remember, when the playoff first started, who won the first one? Ohio State. And they've Florida State's kind of in that same situation they were in, where they had to play their backup quarterbacks. Cardell Jones comes in. Now, he was the third string, not second string like Tate here. But still, it kind of would be poetic justice if a team gets in with a backup quarterback when the first team to win this thing had to do the same thing.
Yeah, and he's thrown 5 touchdown passes and hadn't thrown an interception.
Yeah,
I mean,
just gotta get settled in. Just gotta get settled in.
I mean, and like I said, that FSU defense is turning it up a notch too.
All right, so let's finally get into it. We've got a little bit longer than we normally do, but championship weekend, SEC championship game, of course, played in Atlanta. The final time, Matt, of the SEC on CBS for the foreseeable future. Number 1 Georgia, 12-0, playing number 8 Alabama, 11-1. 3 o'clock CBS. Georgia is a 5.5 point favorite. The over/under is 54.5 points. I've heard people say if Alabama wins this game, it could create chaos and maybe an SEC team doesn't even get in. I think these are 2 of the best 4 teams in the country if Alabama does win this game, but that's just where I'm at it. So I'm going to let you go first, Matt. Alabama, Georgia. Who you like? What are the keys?
Well, Georgia's really banged up. Okay, Ladd McConkey's didn't play last weekend. Neither did Brock Bowers. Neither they're starting right guard. They're starting middle linebackers out for this game. They're beat up, and Alabama, Jason McClellan, he's been slow in practice this week. So, and they're coming off a physical game. I don't know. I watched the Georgia Tech game last weekend, and looked to me like Georgia Tech, they were doing a lot what Auburn was doing to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Jalen Milroe's legs in this game. Georgia, I don't think they can do that with Carson Beck. I don't think he can run around like Jalen Milroe. And I think in a game like this, a dude that can run and as physical as he runs, that's going to be a big advantage. I'll also say this. I've been in that stadium when teams have played Georgia over there. It is a pro Georgia advantage, big time.
Mm-hmm.
So, if Alabama beats Georgia in this championship game, that has to be taken into consideration, or you know nothing about college football, because that's a hornet's nest over there.
It's a road game.
Yeah, I mean, and so I like Alabama's pass rushers in this game. And I'm gonna go with the Tide pulling the upset, man. I think Georgia's really banged up, and I just like Milroe's. I think he's the X factor with his legs, so I think it's gonna be a high scoring game. But I'm gonna go something like 37-34 Alabama.
All right, so we finally get to the very end. Oh wait, I got to say it the last time we do this. Not so fast, my friend. We're finally gonna be on opposite sides here. I actually was leaning Alabama early in the week, but with Jason McClellan not being there, and now it's basically Rodell Williams. I mean, Alabama's got other guys, but this has been your main two running backs. And I also look at it this. Auburn was able to run on Alabama last week, and we know Georgia wants to do that. So I'm kind of looking at this too. I feel like Brock Bowers will be a factor in this game. They held him out against Tech. Now, at the same time, I agree with you about the run game. Hanks King was able to run on the Georgia defense with the read plays, and just like Peyton Thorne did earlier in the year. So that's been an issue for Georgia. I agree with you. It's going to be a higher scoring game. I think I'm going to go Georgia 34-30 in this one to get the win and get back to the playoff. And then Nick Saban's going to go around and tell everybody why, even with 2 losses, they should be in the playoff.
Yeah, well, I mean, that won't matter if they lose to Georgia. So, I mean, it'll like I said, it'll be interesting to see what all the other teams do. But man, I think it's just going to be a fantastic game. I mean, I think both the teams are kind of beat up, though. I mean, they've had grueling physical years. So, and I will say this about Georgia Tech, man, that key guy's turned them around pretty quick. I mean, they got some pretty good players.
Well, last year when he took over, they weren't playing well. They went like 5-7, I think, overall. Upset North Carolina last season. So you kind of saw signs that they could go this way. And then, this year, 6-6. I think I saw one thing where there's one bowl projection with them and Auburn playing each other in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. So who knows? But, yeah. It's going to be fun, Matt. This has been fun all year. Now, let everybody know this. Me and Matt talked off air. We're going to try to get something together before the playoffs. So we may do something the week before the playoff games, kind of give our thoughts on those 2 games and some other college football stuff. So this is not the last of Matt here on the show during college football season. But, Matt, tell everybody about what's going on over there at Field Level Media.
Yeah, man, go check out, Falcon stuff. Auburn's now football's over. but I'm doing basketball stuff, Auburn, Alabama, I think Georgia Tech. I'll be doing some of that. But yeah, man, go check them out. All your college football previews, NFL previews, NBA, college basketball. We have recaps up after the games are over, so you can find out what your team did. So go check it out, fieldlevelmedia.com.
All right. I appreciate it, Matt. It's been a lot of fun during the season. We'll chat. Look forward to talking to you again in a few weeks when we discuss the playoff.
All right, man. Sounds good, buddy.
All right. Remember, you can follow me on social media at PJordanSEC. You can find the podcast over on WiregrassDailyNews.com or wherever you get your podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review. I will read it on a future edition of the show. And if you leave just 4 stars, you are just a straight up hater. You can email me at sportstalkphilipjordan@gmail.com. Check out all my written work over at Last Word on college football. We'll be back. Actually, I am planning doing a Sunday podcast because the rankings will come out early on Sunday afternoon, we may do something live. So pay attention to Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever, YouTube, all that stuff. And then we'll be up on the feed as well. And then next week, I have locked in Coach Max Howell and Bill Bender come on the show. And I know we didn't do the ACC Championship preview yesterday. That was originally planned. Just stuff happened with the guests. We couldn't do it. But anyways, stuff like that does tend to happen. And, of course, there will be a Wiregrass High School football report here on the feed as well with Elba and Eufaula playing the semifinals on Friday night. Anyways, I hope everybody has a great, great weekend. Enjoy championship weekend. And then till next time, bye-bye.